Do you want to know how much carbohydrate to have during your training runs, and are you also keen to save some money making a sports drink? Well, that's what we're going to be covering in this episode. It's episode 2 as I progress towards the sub-3 hour marathon goal at Edinburgh this year. I am James, I'm a sport nutritionist, and I'm very keen on explaining the applied side. It's all very good knowing the sport nutrition numbers, but actually putting it into practice, how it works in training. That's what I do day to day with my clients. So I wanted to document my experience as I train towards the marathon this coming May. In our last video, things we covered were planning, getting your training plan up and looking at the days that you're going to lock in so that you can then start to navigate when you're going to plan in your high carb meals and how you're going to go about training your gut. I alluded to the fact that I had a hard-ish run on Sunday, which was 2 lots of 5 miles. So in this video, I'm going to review how that went and what I did nutritionally for it. I'm also going to show you how I built my own sports drink using just 2 ingredients, or maybe 3 ingredients, and how you can do the exact same thing. And also when is a good time to use those. So on Sunday, it was my long run day. I had 2 lots of 5 miles with a mile in between, a mile after, and a mile warm up. So it was about an hour and 40 run planned. Unfortunately, my calf was not in a good way because I've started to run using the right running muscles, something an elite athlete probably wouldn't have because they would do that anyway. But it's now caused an issue with my calf, so I thought I needed to rest. Because I'm documenting this and I'm embracing trying to train hard as I move towards this, I decided to do the same session on my watt bike, which, to be honest, pretty miserable. Doing an hour and 40 minutes on a watt bike when you haven't sat on it in 9 months because you've had a child has been quite sore on the undercarriage. And to be honest, again, if I wasn't documenting this journey, I probably would have sacked it off halfway or 2/3 of the way through. But I didn't. So I'm keen to explain what I did nutritionally. Now, I'm at a stage where I was keen to have 60 grams of carbohydrate for these long weekend runs. This coming weekend, I'm going to move that up to 70 because my gut felt fine. But for this one, I was planning to have 60 grams of carbohydrate per hour. Now, how I went about doing that, I used a mixture of liquid carbs and carbs from gels. How you can apply this to your training, 60 grams of carbohydrate is quite a good starting point if you've already experimented with some gels a little bit. If you're building your distance and you're in that sort of mid training point, you're not getting towards the pointy end of your training program yet. You're not quite ready to practice full race nutrition where you might want a little bit more, but you want enough carbohydrate to not only fuel the running, but also stress your gut. Because realistically, I didn't need to have 60 grams of carbohydrate per hour for this long cycle, hour and 40, but I had it anyway. 1, because I wanted to stress my gut, and 2, if I put more in during that session, it's going to make managing my nutrition for the rest of the day a bit easier. Now, we had quite a busy day coming up the day, so I got the spike session done in the morning. I had quite a busy day afterwards, and I didn't want to feel just really low energy. So fueling a bit more aggressively is a good thing to help with that. Now, first of all, so before I explain the gels, I'm going to talk you through the carb drink. So I used apple juice. Simple as that. Well, not quite as simple as that because I didn't just have apple juice. If you have apple juice and you poured it neat, if you look on the back of the pack, you'll see how much carbohydrate is in it per 100. So if I'm reading this, it says 11.1 grams of carbohydrate per 100. That means it's an 11% solution. That would class it as hypertonic. So isotonic, which is what Lucozade Sport, Gatorade, what that means is it's got the same amount of solute as your blood. Now that is quite a good percentage. So an isotonic is 6 to 8%. Now that's 11, that's why it's more, it's hyper. An isotonic 6 to 8%, that's going to be good for both fueling and hydration. So that was sort of what I wanted to aim for. Anything under that 6 to 8% is classed hypotonic, and that's okay for fueling because it's getting some carb in, it's better than water, but it's also better for hydration. But I wanted around an isotonic, and then I was also going to have one that was just plain water so that I could drink to thirst and help wash out some of the sticky gel taste from my mouth. A good little easy cheat code then for making your own sports drink is just to mix an apple juice with 50% water. So if you, let's just run the maths on this quickly. If you pour in 50%, so half and half, apple juice and water into your beaker. So I wanted to practice using my running flasks, even though I was on the bike. So instead of using my 750, the trusty 750 that I would use on my normal watt bike, I wanted to have two 500s because that's what I'm going to use on the marathon. I had half of one of the 500s as apple juice. So there was 250 milliliters of apple juice in here, equaling 25 grams of carbohydrate. The other is just water. So 25 grams of carbohydrate over 500 milliliters is about 5. It's actually worked out at about 5.5%. So it's just under that 6%. So it's hypotonic, but realistically it's just on that sort of isotonic mix. Once I had that, my goal was to drink that, make sure that was done over the course of my training session, and then drink the water bottle, which was the other 500 milliliters, drink that to thirst. So using that to swill out my mouth when I was a bit thirsty, always drinking it though. And also after I've had something sugary, just so that my teeth don't really get me feeling all furry. Then what we're looking to do is plan how I was going to hit that 60 grams of carbohydrate per hour. So I knew that there was 25 grams of carbohydrate coming in from liquid carbs in my homemade sports drink. So if I am going to be trying to hit 60 grams of carbohydrate per hour for a 1 hour 40 minute session, 60 grams of carbohydrate is quite an easy one because it's basically 1 gram of carbohydrate per minute. That makes sense, right? So if you're doing a 1 hour 40 minute session, 1 hour is 60 minutes, 40 minutes. So 60 plus 40 is 100. So I need 100 grams of carbohydrate. Because I've got 25 coming in there, I know I need 75 grams of carbohydrate. Now I've been researching and practicing with lots of different brands of gels, and I'd recommend you do this unless you've got one that just really works for you. But you always hear the advice, don't do anything new on race day. But what that actually means, if you read between the lines, is practice with things in practice so that you've got a larger bank of experiences to train to apply on race day, and you know that it's going to work. So I was keen to experiment with a few different things. I went for a Kendall mint cake. I've never ever used one of these gels before. So Kendall mint cake are famous for more of the firm product that they have, which is like a bit of it's a very sweet block, and it's typically mint flavored, but they do a gel. So this was the raspberry flavor. A little bit of critique on this. It kind of tastes a little bit like a raspberry toothpaste, which is a bit strange, but 27 grams of carbohydrate, so can't sniff at that. And then I had 2 high five gels. I was also keen to try out these because they're known for being quite wet, and I was quite keen to experience how that texture felt while I was exercising hard. 27 grams of carbohydrate. These are both 23. That's about 45 then, 45, 50. This is about 27, so round that to 25 or 30. With all of this then, plus my 27, here I've got 75 grams of carbohydrate, plus the 25 I have there. I've hit my 100 grams of carbohydrate, which is the 60 grams per hour. The next thing to do was just execute the session. Before I did that though, I needed to plan when I was going to have these. So that's a question I also get asked, like when should you have your gels? Now, the liquid carbs is going to be consumed throughout. I wanted to have some sort of structure with these. So I planned to have them at 20, 40 and 60 minutes, fairly close together. But instead of doing it like 25 minutes and then having an uneven spacing, I found that having an even spacing just makes it easy to remember. When you're already trying to think about when you're next gonna go for the hard block on the bike or on the run, you've probably got more to think about than you realize. So having a really simple structure of when you're gonna have the things is a good little tip. So had all of those, got them in. Energy levels felt really good. My reflections on the session were, it was actually hard. It was hard to hold the heart rate as high as I would normally while running. And I think that's because I'm just not used to being on the bike for that long. So probably didn't get the exact right stimulus, but I gave it a good go. And again, not as an elite, but as someone who's just training towards it, fitting it in their own time, I felt like that was okay. Fortunately, my calf has healed up a lot better now. So next week I have a 10 mile at race pace and 3 miles before and 3 miles after. So it's a 16 mile total. My watch is saying it should take about 1 hour and 50. So I'm going to be practicing 70 grams of carbohydrate per hour on that. So I'll be reviewing that in my next video. And also I'm going to be looking at how I managed my overload during the week. So little fueling and refueling habits. I'm going to look at a few of the meals that I had and why. So we'll be detailing that in the next video. Hopefully see you then.